Hey everybody, we're back in the studio. It feels really, really good to be back at campus now, so able to use the studio again, which I'm very grateful for. Have one more year of doing that. But today I have something exciting for you. Today, we're going to talk about my top 5 lessons from trying to be a young entrepreneur. Now, take this for granted. There's a ton of entrepreneurs out there and they all have great tips. And some of these are things that I've, also heard from them. But I just want to give, hey, here's what I've learned from trying to start 2 businesses. I tried to start a coaching business, which lasted for a year, and then I ended it. And then currently I'm trying to do an app, kind of like a social media app. And I think it's particularly interesting being a college student and being an entrepreneur, and also just being someone under the age of 30, particularly even under the age of 25, trying to be an entrepreneur. And these are the top 5 tips that I've learned that, if you ask me like, hey, what would you give me advice on in terms of being an entrepreneur, starting a business, trying a new project, even if it's not to make money or start a business, it's a creative project. Like, what is it? Like, these are very, very good tips and lessons that I've learned and you may or may not find helpful. So without further ado, we're going to get straight into it. Here we go. Tip number 1 is we're all terrible guessers. We're terrible guessers. Whatever you think the business is, whatever you think the core idea is, probably wrong. I'm not saying it's completely wrong. It's partially right, but it's definitely not 100% right. I heard somewhere that Google was the only business that ever got their founding hypothesis right? Their founding idea right. So what does that mean? Well, it means you're going to have to pivot and pivot and pivot. When I was starting the coaching business, I didn't actually really make any real momentum until I really started pivoting. And it wasn't even just pivoting that's important, but just being open to it of like, okay, like, all right, my idea is to coach these kids. Well, what if they don't want in-person coaching? What if they just want an online lecture series? And you go, okay, wait, hold on. Well, I'm learning that, I'm trying to get these kids to sign up at the end of a presentation, but when I ask them to scan the QR code, they're not doing it. So instead what I do is I say, hey, everyone come out, scan this QR code, and then I tell them what it's for. Like, whatever it is, right? Like, you got to find little ways to pivot, learn things, adapt. And, whatever you think the business idea is, it's probably not. Whatever you think this song is going to be, it probably is going to take a slightly different direction. You have to pivot. And the second part of that is you have to test, right? Like, you think the world's going to want this. You think people are going to react in this way. You don't know. You really don't know until it's in the hands of actual users, actual people. And then you go, oh shit, like that's actually how they want it. Or, oh shit, I didn't realize they might actually not want this at all, right? And you don't take it personally, but you have to understand, like, you're not going to guess right. It's just not human nature. Very rare. And be ready to pivot and to test. Number two is move faster than you think is humanly possible. Now, what I mean by that is when you're starting a business, it's super, super easy to just go, okay, let's take our time, let's settle in, let's make a plan and then go for it. And what's important is actually just like, hey, like, let's just see if we can fucking build something. I really experienced this when I was building this app and we were trying to make an MVP, a minimal viable product. And I brought in a co-founder who had the technical background to code. And I love Drew. Shout out Drew. There's absolutely no hate towards Drew. Just shout out for AI in this example. Meaning, we spent, kind of 6 weeks trying to build this prototype and build this app. And you can see a couple examples here and it kind of looks terrible, not gonna lie. It was not ready. And then if you look at this one that AI built, I built this in a night with AI. And I mean, first off, it goes to say like AI is really fucking powerful. That is crazy. And also it just goes to say like, just like find ways to try and build something and move fast, because I never actually would have found that way of using AI if I wasn't so impatient that I was like, I need to figure this out tonight. Like, I was being super impatient. I was like, I just gotta figure something out. I'll make it work. And that's how I found Base 44, which is the app I used to code that in. And I went from it taking 6 weeks to build this thing to it took one night to build this much better thing. And if you really push yourself with deadlines and just coming up with a product, I think that's really important. Like, you shouldn't, if you're not a little embarrassed to show your product, then you waited too long. That's a famous quote. I cannot remember for the life of me who that is by right now. But that's a big thing. It's like, move fast. Don't wait for your product, your idea to be perfect. Get it into the hands of people, because like I said, we're bad guessers. And it's important to get feedback and to get responses on how people are reacting to your product. And you can only do that if you get into the hands of them. And it's never gonna get in their hands if you're waiting for your thing to be perfect. Number 3 is have a giving mindset. When you're going to create something, you should really have the mindset of like, look, I'm not only doing this to make money and create a cool business and start something. It's also like, hey, I want to give this to the world. I think this is a good idea. I think this will move the world forward, even if it's as small as a sponge with a smiley face on it, right? It's like, look, I think this is a cool thing. I want to give this to the world. I think it has value. And when you go into that, I think one, there's just a lot better mojo and energy. And two, like when you're doing things, like you feel more fulfilled. You're like, wow, like this is really cool. I'm giving this to the world. I want to work on it. I want to help other people, opposed to just like, I want to make money and I want to be successful and be popular and famous. So having a giving mindset really, really helps. And it also helps getting over the embarrassment, right? Like with this podcast, for example, like I have to kind of have a giving mindset of like, look, I don't need to share these tips. But I want to give that to people, right? And obviously there's other reasons to do the podcast. Like I would love if this podcast made money. I would love if this helped me, in my professional development, et cetera, et cetera. But you have to have a giving mindset, one, for your own mental sanity, because it helps you get over the embarrassment. And two, it's just the right thing to do. And I think you'll see that it comes back to you in the long run. Number 4 is you don't have to make money for it to be worth it. Like you genuinely, really, really don't. This was a thing that I had trouble with. And, looking back in retrospect, you realize like, okay, my first business, I probably made, I don't know, $600. And you're like, man, I only made $600 and I spent a year on it. There's no way that's worth it. But you look back at it and you're like, oh shit, I learned way more doing that than I ever did in any business class. And as a result of it, because I was giving so many presentations, like I became such a better public speaker. And you look at it, you're like, man, I learned how to register a business. And I learned how to use QuickBooks and, manage my own accounting. And like you look at it and you're like, man, I learned all these different things and I built up some resilience. And then you look at the app I'm doing, like, man, I just learned how to like build an app. Like that's fucking valuable. And you just look at it and you're like, okay, like even if it doesn't make money, these projects, these businesses, like it's still worth it for the character growth, right? Like, I think it sounds kind of cheesy, like do it for the character growth, but it's honestly, and I don't typically go into projects or businesses thinking like I'm going to do this and not make any money and just grow as a person, right? I obviously want to create something successful, but it's nice knowing in the back of your mind, like, look, if this doesn't work out, if it doesn't make money, it was still worth it, right? For other reasons. And when you're really, really young, that's particularly important, right? If you're a 6-year-old entrepreneur, you're like, okay, I probably know all these things already. But if you're a 21-year-old entrepreneur, you're like, dude, these lessons are really going to pay dividends in the long run. And so even if you don't think it's going to make a ton of money, it could probably still be worth it. And number 5, make sure you're building something you want. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, when they're new and young, are going, what's the idea that's going to make me money? What's the idea that I think is what people really, really want or need right now and is going to grow like crazy, right? And get me on Forbes 30 under 30. But I think it's really, really important that you start out with something you really, really want. Those were 2 different experiences I had. The first business I had, I really started it in the sense of like, what am I good at and what do people want? Right? It wasn't necessarily, hey, what do I want? It was like, what's my skill set and what do I think other people want? Which is still very valuable. And I still think that needs to come into the equation. But I think it should also come into the equation of like, hey, is this something you want, that you'd use, that you really like? And it wasn't that it wasn't true for the first business, but it wasn't the founding reason. It wasn't what sparked the interest in the first place. With this app, it was like, I'm building an accountability app basically. And it started as something like, look, I just want this for my podcast and my podcast community and for my friends and family. And it's just something I would use, right? Like whether it's a big business or not. And I think that's a great indicator of like, okay, this is a real thing. Because like I said earlier, we're terrible at guessing what people might want or speculating, right? But if you're like, no, I want this right now, that is a real tangible thing. And you're like, okay, like that is an actual indication of, hey, this might actually have something there. If you genuinely really want it, opposed to you genuinely think you might want it or other people are going to want it, 2 different things. And I think it's just a great indicator, and it's a great, for fuel and energy as you go forward, because you're going to get tired, you're going to get bored, you're going to get annoyed and frustrated. And if you're pushing forward knowing, this is something I genuinely would like to have, it's easier to get through those, those valleys. Bang. That was the 5. Super, super quick. I'm trying to do more podcasts that are faster. I think it just fits everyone's style a little more, but who knows? I'm terrible at guessing, right? So stick around. There's going to be more like this. There are going to be more interviews. I hope you enjoyed. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, what else you'd want to hear and learn, and what you thought about these tips. See you guys next time.